Heineken Las Vegas Grand Prix. One of the most tidiest, wonderful races of the season. Why? Because it's a new Grand Prix which started in 2023, which they've tried over time to organize, but they were only able to do it once and it went out, faded out. But now they're able to bring it back in 2023. 24 they've run it and they're trying to keep it on the calendar for a whole long time. This Grand Prix has brought two interesting races and so many opportunities into gambling, racing. Yeah, gambling, I have to say that because that is the home affair of Las Vegas. It's a brand new track, hybrid. Most part of it are organized on the main street, while some part of it are on the site in which Formula One was able to buy and able to turn into a track. What is new for the weekend? There's a new Lewis Hamilton grandstand in Las Vegas. The circle, that hub, is still there. Then there's a new hotel being built that looks like a guitar. It's not been finished, but I think during the race to be lit up. And this Las Vegas, a lot of tickets will be buzzing in, expensive tickets. The Wynn hotels, Bellagio, all those hotels are going to be taking a lot of people. You can get 3 days for like $9,000. Then the F1 experience tickets, a lot of tickets will be flying, so it's going to be very interesting. Now, a lot of things have improved since the first race. It was very, very difficult hosting the first race. We had the first race on 2023, and it looks very interesting when Carlos Sainz got the penalty for something that happened because the manhole on the track destroyed the sky. I feel like it's a very, very interesting race with 3 DRS zones, which makes it more interesting, the overtake, and it gives the drivers more opportunity to race themselves. A lot of overtakes will happen, and you can't take it away from how these cars are going to perform this weekend. It's going to be very interesting. Now, we have 17 corners on that track. The run down to turn 1 is a very short one, and you remember in 2023, Max Verstappen was able to push Charles Leclerc off, in which he got some good 5-second penalty for when Charles Leclerc started complaining like a baby on the radio. The best thing Charles Leclerc does is qualifying. I think he needs a lot of things to do to get himself into good racing in F1, seriously. And 17 corners, some of the slowest speed corners, like 3 of the slowest speed corners on the current Formula One racing calendar. That's the turn 1 to 2, then the turn 7 to 8. Very slow. You need to maneuver it gently, and some of the craziest long straight overtaking opportunities is going to be very, very massive. So what do we expect? We expect Mercedes to be strong. Remember in 2024, the Red Bull had a very woeful FP1, FP2. They had to shave Max Verstappen's winglet for him to be able to give his best performance, but that was not even enough because he had a good performance, but that is not a good track for them. Now, the Mercedes, we're expecting them to perform better because Mercedes perform better in very, very cold conditions. Meanwhile, I think we've seen the McLaren also performing good in such conditions. So I expect Mercedes to perform better, and we expect to see the continuation of Ferrari woes because we'll be having long straights. Now, we're talking about downforce and long straight. They are going to bring the car lower. How will Ferrari perform? I don't know. I don't want to know. But it's going to be a very difficult one for them, 100%. Now, drivers with most wins, we've had Max Verstappen and George Russell sharing the spoils, Red Bull and Mercedes sharing the spoils for constructors. Now, the circuit length is a 6.201 kilometers. That's about 3.853 miles. That's a 30958 kilometers, 192,599 miles, a 50-lap race. Now, we're expecting a 2-stop race because tire degradation will be high. The track is very, very abrasive. It's a normal driving track. We're going to see a lot of strategies, calls that will shape on the race, and a lot of overtakes, banging overtakes. Now, how do these teams make it more interesting? You're going to see the McLaren come out and show us that they have the true speed in which they've shown all through the season. Now, the tire wear will be a different one. So if McLaren and Mercedes can give a good competition this race, it's going to be an interesting one because don't expect the Red Bull to really perform. They've not really had a good performance in the last 2 years. The first year, they were able to bully, but now coming the second year, it was a different one for them. So other teams now have moved up. So I see them as the third best team. That's Red Bull coming into Las Vegas, and they need to challenge if they still want to be in this competition, in which I think is slipping away from them into the hands of Lando Norris. So they need to give a better performance. That's for the Red Bull. But Mercedes, I think, do a good job. Meanwhile, Kimi Antonelli has been doing a wonderful and tremendous job since the last few races. The last race he did, his qualifying was outstanding and did a good race. So this is somebody that really gave a challenge to Max Verstappen and told him that, hey boy, I'm a good driver. And he secured a good podium. So I think he's coming into this race from that, and he's going to look so strong in this race because he has a very good IQ, and you're expecting George Russell, that has won on this track, to also come and perform. He's been not up to par with his teammate in recent times. I was expecting the female Formula season to have their final 2 races on this track to decide the winner between Wilg and Dorian Pine of Mercedes. That's Wilg of Ferrari, Dorian Pine of Mercedes. So it's going to be a very, very interesting one coming into this race. And last year we had George Russell hanging on pole, George Russell winning the race, Lewis Hamilton coming from 11th to come 2nd, Carlos Sainz coming 3rd, Lando Norris getting the fastest lap of the race. Now Charles Leclerc coming 4th, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda, and Sergio Perez. It has been a good track for Pierre Gasly. In the last 2 races, he has qualified in the top 10, so I expect to see him coming up to show himself. Colapinto last year had a big accident for the Williams team, and I think he will come into this race now with more experience to show himself, to show us that he has really improved. Now, it's also a race in which I expect to see Aston Martin perform. Now, with Ferrari's brouhaha during the past week, I think it's time for the CEO or the chairman of Ferrari to do his chairman job and chairman, not just come talking. If you watch the race this season, the drivers have given it all. I don't expect races in which you are lift and coasting. Look at the way Nico Hülkenberg just drove past Lewis Hamilton to come 3rd in Silverstone. Nobody really knew what they were going through, that it was a lift and coast they were doing. Everybody thought it was natural. Everybody thought, oh, it is Lewis Hamilton, it is this. But now we are knowing that these guys are struggling with the car. From lap 1, they do lift and coast. How do they get to the maximum of the car? Meanwhile, the chairman is saying, oh, the engineers are doing their job, the mechanics are doing a great job, everybody is doing a great job except for the drivers. So you keep changing drivers and you keep getting the same result, which means it's not the driver. They should look at themselves as a team. So I expect a strong weekend from Aston Martin and Williams against the Ferrari this weekend. To me, like I said earlier, it's going to be a battle between the Mercedes and the McLaren. And anybody that shows up and give us a surprise, hell no, hell yeah, we're expecting that surprise. In 2023, we had the 2 Ferraris qualified, 1-2, Carlos Sainz getting the penalty, Verstappen 3rd, and at the end of the day, Max Verstappen won the race, Charles Leclerc 2nd. The last lap battle between Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez was very, very interesting. Esteban Ocon coming 4th, Lance Stroll 5th. What a race it was for him. Lewis Hamilton 7th, George Russell 8th, Fernando Alonso coming 9th. Great one for him. Now, on Thursday, for the FP1, FP2, we should be having a temperature of around 11 degrees. Precipitation would have been earlier, so we expect a clear sky, but cooler temperatures, 11 degrees, 30% precipitation, chance of precipitation, that's chance of rain. Then FP3 qualifying 12 degrees, the race on Saturday 12 degrees. I don't see any chance of rain on Saturday, but I think it's going to be very interesting if you see rain. You might have to go with your coat and probably your rainwear. Tire strategy: the C3, C4 and the C5. The C3 as the hard, the C4 as the medium, and C5 as the soft. Like I said, it's going to be cold nights because the night race, low temperature tracks and high warm-up sensitivity, so sometimes you need to get 2 laps in, bunker lapping earlier when the tire is heated up. And I think going into this race, we are going to see a very interesting way of ending the season. This might be some of the things that will shape this season. Now, the last 2 races of the season, after Las Vegas, we go to Qatar, then we go to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and this is already looking like a McLaren win and probably a Lando Norris win. McLaren had won the Constructors' Championship. Is a landslide for them. Now, who is going to come second? Is it the Mercedes that are comfortably second now, the Red Bull, or the Ferrari that are having inconsistency? The Red Bull have only 1 driver. How does it pan out? But certainly, I think we should have some teams coming up with their last top grade for the season, or some, which will be some beats, and it's going to be what might shape on their season. But you don't want to miss the race, because there's so many things packed up for the weekend. Up onto the FP1, FP2. I love you guys. Bye. Cheers.